Hello, welcome to an online presentation for Center for New Music's Window Gallery. I'm C4NM's project manager, Riley. So in March, we set up a new exhibition by NO.E Parker. It's called Composing Decomposition. Unfortunately, because of shelter in place, we were never really able to open it up to the public, and we weren't able to have a reception like we usually do. So in lieu of that, we're giving you a virtual tour and a Zoom conversation between Bart Hopkin and NO.E. So NO.E's going to tell you a little bit more, but essentially her exhibit involves taking data from composting materials and translating or sonifying that data into music. There's many ways in which this can be done. One example is directly translating that data into hertz, a measurement of frequency, or it can be taken a step further and translated into Midi notes or notes on an acoustic instrument. So NO.E is going to provide a few more examples of that. One example will be a piano composition that I placed underneath the virtual tour that you'll be listening to. And then after that virtual tour, I'll provide another example of a Midi translation or sonification. Then the event will close with a conversation between Bart Hopkin, curator, and NO.E. And in just a moment before we get started, we'll also hear from David Samus, another one of our key curators at the Window Gallery. One last thing before we get started, if you are on Facebook and if you would like to say hi to NO.E or if you have any questions, feel free to put that in the comment field. She's going to be keeping an eye out for those and is live with us right now. So thanks to NO.E and all of our curators involved for making this happen, and thanks to you for watching. If you would like to see more virtual Window Gallery events and more concerts at our venue, please consider supporting us. You can donate if you're on Facebook through a button on the post, or if you're on YouTube, there's a link to donate in the description of the video. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and enjoy the presentation.
Hello, and welcome to the Window Gallery. Today we'll be having a virtual conversation and artist demonstration by NO.E Parker with my co-curator, Bart Hopkin. My name is David Samus, and I'm one of the curators here along with Bart Hopkin and Kirk Pearson, who I'm really excited to see some new international work from in the coming seasons. Now, while this season has been put on hold in our landmark space in the SF's Tenderloin District at the San Francisco Center for New Music, we are going to be having a number of these virtual artist conversations. So the next one of those will be in August, and it'll be with the artist Alan Tower, who's been the champion of the huaca and also the inventor of the samelon, which is a wonderful evolution of the work of Harry Bertoia. Whether or not we're able to have physical exhibitions, we will have some kind of virtual exhibition in November and December with Other Minds composers Fred Frith and Sudu Tuare, who've been working together on interesting sound sculptures for the better part of a decade. I did want to mention that the Center for New Music staff is still available to the community for support and advocacy and help with grant writing, if that's something that anyone needs, although the space remains currently closed. So please go ahead and reach out to the Center for New Music if that's something that you need. And as always, from all of us here at the Window Gallery, stay safe, and we're excited to have you here today for this wonderful conversation and demonstration with NO.E Parker.
We're here with Dr. NO.E Parker, and she's here to tell us a little bit about her exhibit. She's going to give us a walkthrough. So thanks for joining us, NO.E.
Sure, thanks for having me. Awesome.
So tell me a little bit about your work in general and how it led to this particular project and field of study.
As a musician and a composer, I'm trying to find ways to integrate sustainability with music. I'm an avid gardener, and I've been a lifelong composter. So I figured I would see if I could integrate my two great interests into one thing, and also have an overarching message of hope about global warming. Our globe is warming itself. The Earth is composing and recomposing. We have dirt, and there are many microbes living in the Earth. It's so interesting, the process of decomposition. Making a compost pile is taking a lot of stuff out of your landfill. We're very lucky to be living in this part of the world where it's really easy to compost everything. I'm also hoping that people thinking about compost in a new way, maybe they'll want to compost or think about their compost pile as their friend. So this is the compost temperature sensing apparatus. There is a 6-point temperature sensing device on top of a compost bin. The compost, which would normally live in the bin, there's some examples here which have been sheltering in place since March. I don't think very many things are living. Maybe there are things living in there, but I wouldn't want to open it. Those are the compost microbes. I used a scanning electron microscope to get that image. It's probably about 5,000 times magnified. Just to give you an idea of how much life there is going on inside of a compost bin. It's amazing, beautiful. So the compost bin is there full of compost, and the temperature sensors are placed inside, picking up the different temperature that's happening in the compost bin. I made 6 temperature sensors going into 6 different areas of the compost. And because of the heterogeneous nature of compost, we're getting 6 different temperatures. And through the magic of Max MSP, all of this data is being collected and logged. And what we do with that data is what's making the sound. So data sonification is all about taking data, any kind of data, in this case it's compost temperature data, and translating it into the audible realm. I'm taking direct temperature and translating it into hertz. There are 6 speakers, 1 speaker for each temperature sensor. So if something's 76.3 degrees Fahrenheit, it will sound 76.3 hertz. We hear 76 hertz, but if we wanted to make music, we would use this chart. So if we've got 76.3, we can go into this Midi note to frequency conversion chart. 676 is an E, and the hertz is 659. We're in the 5th octave. So in a soundscape situation, it's going to be the same sample. So the 76 hertz is going to be sounded as a gong, because I'm a gamelan player and I love gongs. So I have this beautiful sample I took when I was studying gamelan in Java. So I use that. So that's what's kind of pulsing out of all of the speakers, but each speaker is going to be slightly different. So just imagine the room. The soundscape is based on the idea of acoustic beating. So the soundscape is very, very visceral almost, because of the beating that's going on. So we've got all these gongs kind of humming along and flaring when the temperature goes up. I think it's a good metaphor for compost. It's this really busy sound, but it's kind of relaxing too.
Totally. I saw pictures that you sent in for promo of performances in the past. Can you tell us briefly a little bit about maybe a recent performance?
I like to stage these things called data listening sessions. what happens at a data listening session, people come in, so they're laying down on a yoga mat or something like that, and underneath all 6 speakers, and they're going to hear the changes between the speakers. And the idea is people aren't used to listening to data so much, so there's no, it's not codified. There's the experience is just kind of it's maybe, you know, once in a lifetime kind of feeling where, you know, I don't know what I'm listening for, you know, that I'm just listening. I'm listening to a thing that, you know, I'm listening to a bunch of temperatures changing inside of a compost pile. Like how could you even? So it's really nice to have people relax, where they can just kind of zone out and listen. The point of that is I show people different manifestations of the sound, how a sonification could be based on hertz, with parameter mapped differently. It could also be mapped to Midi note number, you know, notes on a keyboard, and I'll arrange them for acoustic instruments, which is a whole other set of parameter mappings, because of course a violin doesn't have the same range as a piano. So that's another challenge, and it keeps me busy. Here's a poster that was presented in the International Conference for Audio Display in 2015. So it's just showing my research. I took a very practice-based approach. I didn't know, you know, how do I get data from compost? I have no idea. So I went in my backyard and just kind of studied it and took manual temperature readings and kind of getting into the research aspect and developing the temperature sensing device. A lot of fun times building a sound system, a mini sound system. That's really fun. Yeah, that's a picture of the original temperature sensing device and some prototype sensors that we developed. So those are the temperature sensors, but these rainbow colored wires that are dangling these weird, strange bits of paper. That's all kind of that's all conductive material. So we were sticking them into the compost to see how they would decompose and if we could make sound out of that. As the resistance changed, and yeah, that's a portable setup. We have 2 marine amplifiers and a 6-channel audio interface. Run pretty much anywhere. It can run indoors or outdoors. Music can be sustainable. I got very deeply into the idea of decomposition and sustainability. So I devised these paper-based speaker housings, and the baffle of the speaker is made of bamboo. This is a really fun exploration, sculptural sided speakers.
Environmental phenomenon and something as important as climate change, you know, we can't sit because it's so big and it's moving so slowly in a way but so it sounds like a profound way to literally sense it with one of our senses.
Yeah, it is really getting to me. You know, I could maybe I'm a lazy composer looking outside of myself for the notes on the page or whatever, and at least in this experience. But no, I think it's very interesting thinking about everything around us. We can create things. We can create new listening experiences just by picking up information from different non-human systems around us. That is pretty fun. It's the kind of music that we don't know what we're going to be hearing, but there's definitely going to be patterns that arise out of it, and picking up messages from things we don't even notice.
Thanks, NO.E, for speaking with us and giving that virtual demonstration. What you heard underneath that demonstration was a solo piano composition by NO.E using data from composting. In just a second, before we move on to the conversation between Bart Hopkin and NO.E, I want to provide another example of how NO.E can translate composting data into music, in this case through MIDI notes. So without further ado, here's another example of NO.E's Sonification.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Now, I have to say, NO.E, that I haven't seen your installation in the gallery. One more little piece of history for people that may be watching this is that NO.E set up her exhibit right before the virus hit. And so this thing was set up, and then basically nobody got to see it except people passing by and looking in the window. So we're in an odd position of letting people see it virtually and not being there, which is a great shame, because it's a very interactive kind of thing, you know. So let me ask you, to begin with, what would have happened at this reception if it had been live?
Well, at a live reception, of course, there'd be the period of time when people come and mill around and check out the installation in the space, check out the research that I've done and the artifacts, the speakers I created, and just grapple with the idea itself of music coming out of Compost. There's also an interactive data sonification and visualization station that people could take a tour through a data set, hearing it with different sound parameters mapped to the data, so they can get a sense of how things are different when they hear data as pure frequency as opposed to MIDI note numbers. Also, they could scroll through different studies I have performed in different parts of the world, so they can get a real insight into different data in different places, different times.
You've used the phrase data listening session, or some phrase like that.
Mm-hmm.
Would we have had a data listening session?
Yeah, so there would be a performance like, but I don't know if it's a performance because it's playing a data set, but a listening experience where people would hear the data as a spatialized sound composition, a MIDI note number transformed microtonally, so they'd hear it at 8 points, and they'd hear the data coming out all around them, and then hopefully they'd get some sort of insight into what it's like, what temperature change is like inside of a compost pile.
Right. Eight points, 8 spatial points corresponding to points within the evolving compost bin.
Yes, yes.
Translated into a spatial array of speakers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah, yeah.
quite
And it would be a data set. It wouldn't be a live
right.
experience. It would be experience of data.
Yeah, yeah. Do you find that people, you've done this before, of course, so do you find that people know how to listen to stuff like that? Are you in the position of saying, I'm going to ask you to listen in a different way? Or can you just start it and people know how to listen?
Right. Yeah. I like to prepare people. Usually in a data listening session that I've had before, I have people laying down and just relaxing and being open to the experience. Basically, we're listening to another system, another living system, and we don't really have data sonification is a relatively new field. It started in the 90s, you know, as a genre, I guess, but it's still really kind of abstract, and it's not a lot of public exposure to these kind of events. So a data listening session is a space where the listener can just kind of absorb, apprehend. It's not codified. It depends on the system you're listening to. So it's kind of a freeing listening experience. It's kind of being in the moment and experiencing it and not trying to judge it.
I've seen on your website and other places 3 terms, I think, that come up a lot and one comes up less often. Data sonification, data musification, and data audification. Those are all terms you've used, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, give us a rundown.
Okay. In my perspective, there's a lot of discussion about all of these. It's still kind of forming. It's not completely hard codified, but in my perception of all of these things, data audification is something that's direct and live. It's a live experience of data. Sorry?
In real time?
Yeah, in real time. Data sonification is where we're kind of putting, it's a data set, it's not live. So we're sonifying the data and then of course we're parameter mapping it and maybe doing other things to it. So it's a little bit less raw than a data audification in a way. And data musification is when you're taking the data set and you're kind of applying musical parameters to it. So, you know, if you want to musify a data set to be played by a chamber orchestra, you're going to have to think about what instruments, what the ranges are, all these kind of things, because these instruments, acoustic instruments, have very definite parameters, and how can they portray data in a way where a data set the range of the data might be way out of the range of the instrument. So that's more of a musical adaptation, I would say, into a codified musical system.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. One of the big questions that comes up here is mappings. I think you just used the word. And you know, the question of what kind of data becomes what kind of sound. How do you decide? And it can be people like to act as if it's not arbitrary, but it can be quite arbitrary. You can basically take any kind of information and create some algorithm for turning it into any kind of sound. And one of the things that really I got a kind of a kick out of is that 2 of your most important mappings, you know, and correct me because I'm going to get everything wrong here, are temperature data from the compost bin direct to frequency, and temperature data direct to Midi note. And what's interesting about that to me that's funny, this doesn't apply to the musifications, but what's kind of cool and funny is that temperature to frequency is a mapping from a sort of, well, it has to do with the fact that we have this thing called Fahrenheit. The way it maps is determined by something that you didn't decide at all, but that some guy said, this much change in temperature is, we will call it 1 degree Fahrenheit. You'd get a different mapping if you chose centigrade, but by kind of coincidental luck, the kinds of temperatures you're looking at in the compost bin, when applied to this Fahrenheit system, give you numbers that happen to fall in the nice heart of the musical hearing range. Kind of a nice little convenient coincidence. And a little bit arbitrary in that you didn't invent Fahrenheit for this purpose. There was Fahrenheit in your, and it's the same thing with MIDI note numbers, right? I mean, it happens that there's MIDI note numbers 1 through whatever, and you're having temperatures that are, well, not exactly 1 through whatever, but, you know, close enough that you end up, it translates without you having to impose any of your own intentions on it, except accepting pre-existing systems.
Yeah.
And note numbers, right? Am I right?
Yeah. It was very serendipitous.
Yeah.
And that's why I went with it, because it seemed more direct, something that wasn't so abstract. There are a lot of data sonifications of weather systems out there, climate change, all those things. But they're a little abstract when you're experiencing them sonically. And this, I really loved this, the metaphor that I drew, because it seemed very, very understandable to people, even non-musical people.
Yeah.
At least in theory.
It's nice on those 2 levels. One is that anybody gets it, anybody can get it. The other is that it's very readable, it's very interpretable. It's not like, sure, there's some system by which this information becomes this sound, but I don't know what it is, but maybe I like the sound or I don't like it. But in your case, you can really read the map. When the temperature goes up, the note goes up, and in this way that I would think reads well for people. And would also create some cool sounds, because the temperature changes are gradual, they're very microtonal. I expect, I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah. Hopefully we can hear it at some point.
Actually, I have heard it.
You have a lovely multi-channel system there.
On the website, but what I haven't done is lay down on the floor under 8 systems, pretending I'm in a compost bin. The music
With a bunch of pianos.
They do these stereo recordings of piano where the low notes are here and the high notes are there. The musification question is a little different in this case. There you have to think about your mapping a little more carefully.
Yeah, it was interesting, but again, looking at the data set on a graph, I mapped it onto a graph. It kind of also spoke to me. Certain areas of the pile were higher than others, so I was like, okay, well, I mean, what kind of instruments do I want to use? Oh, the highest one. Okay, I'm going to use a violin because it has that range. I'll use a piano, of course, because that can cover everything. Yeah, so it was interesting, but then the data I had to change a little bit just to keep it in the range of the instrument. So that was I felt like I was cheating.
We've been talking about this particular exhibit, and there's much more to be said about it, by the way, including that it has a long history and so forth. But I'm going to move on to other kinds of things.
Okay.
There's other aspects of your work that are not apparent in this exhibit. For one thing, you're a school teacher, right? No, I don't know anything about that. Are you teaching grade school kids or something?
Yeah, I am. I've been a teaching artist for a while, going into schools, and I just started. I'll be starting my 2nd year at Allendale Elementary School in Oakland, in East Oakland. There, I'm a makerspace teacher.
Oh, wonderful. How much back and forth feedback between these 2 compartments of your world are there? Are the kids, do what you learn from the kids inform what you do in artistic concepts, and do your art ideas inform what you do with the kids?
Well, when I first started being a teaching artist, it was while I was kind of cooking up this project. So it was really fun to go into a school with my apparatus, my temperature sensing apparatus, and teach kids about frequency, the idea of frequency and cycles and things like that. Using the apparatus, I was having the kids hold the temperature sensors or put them in water glasses and things like that. And the Max MSP program that I just developed, I had an oscilloscope so you could see zero hertz, up to the body temperature, and then getting them to run. So it was really, it was a multimodal way of thinking about sound, and also trying to get them to think about compost and biology too at an early age, or environmental science. So that was very inspiring for me to go into the schools and talk to, anywhere from 3rd to 5th graders about this. Have a really fun experience. I work with kids and music making. I like to build instruments with kids and also introduce them to sustainable ways of powering electronics. I think that's really important for kids to have an option of in today's world. I'm always making sure that they know about rechargeable batteries and solar power. This kind of things, especially since things are so much cheaper now than they have been in the past. It's big. When I teach solar, like how to make a little solar robot, or the piece that I was showing at the Aeolian Day is solar powered wind synth. Kids get really excited, and I just want to show them how easy it is to make that choice.
You also have been, I don't know if you're still acting as a DJ?
Oh yeah. Yeah, my first DJ gig was when I was 14 at a high school dance. And I helped start a long-running electronic art and music collective, the Semi-Permanent Autonomous Zone, that it start 6th Street, San Francisco, back in the 90s. Sorry?
Please.
It got started, it's the Semi-Permanent Autonomous Zone, SPAZ. And it started back in the 90s and off of 6th Street and Market, little club.
Right by the Center for New Music. Right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the other side of the street.
When you do DJ type stuff, are you doing popular music or dance music, or are you doing far out stuff? What are you doing?
Let's see. I like to play my own friends' music, so I'm not a genre-fied DJ. I like to play all different kinds of things. The thing I like to do is to play experimental music in an experimental way. I like to beat mix, so I'll take my friends' tracks and just mix them together in ways that may not be codified. I guess I'm an experimental dance DJ.
Yeah. Okay. You're not a typical DJ, I'm guessing.
No.
Okay.
No, it's fun. I usually play very early in the evening or very late in the morning or early in the morning.
Okay. What is the Autonomous Mutant Festival?
Oh, that is an amazing 10-day free festival that SPAZ and other sound systems from around the United States started. This is the week that we'll be having. We would have had our 24th Autonomous Mutant Festival, but we decided as a group not to bring our germs to small villages and near the forests. We decided not to descend. But yeah, it's a free festival. It's been going on this is the 24th year. And anyone can come and set up sound or art, share in food, and it's kind of an anti-Burning Man. Not that Burning Man's a bad thing, but we're not burning things. We're going into the forest. Yes. We're cleaning up spaces. Sorry.
Where is this?
It changes. It could be anywhere from Northern California to Southern Washington. Yeah, we've had it in the Olympic National Forest. It's been in Lassen, in California for a few years. Yeah, so basically it's completely, the site is determined by the scouts, the people who scout the site. And no one really knows until, we might have scouted a site a month ahead, but then a month later or a week before the festival happens, the weather conditions change because of climate change. The fire season is constantly moving and changing. We can't predict. So yeah, it keeps us on our toes, and we all come there together, and we spend 10 days in the forest and just share music and art. And I've been working for the past, I guess, 7 years on developing a solar-powered audiovisual installation with another one of the originators, or the main people who helped start the festival, and that's been a great experience. Just trying to get a very low energy way. We're doing 6-point sound in a forest using solar panels, and it's pretty much a venue for people to do experimental music and puppet shows or any kind of a dance performance. It's really a beautiful thing. It's called the Solarium.
It sounds great. I have to say, it sounds great. I'm glad that some people are hearing about it. Do a bazillion people don't come, because that would be burning.
No. Yeah, no. We don't really advertise it that much. It's very word of mouth. And the rule is, you have to be very autonomous. You have to clean up after yourself. It's not a place for people to come and have a party. Yeah, that's really, it's not for spectators. Everyone's doing something. And it's very beautiful. And it's also very conscious in the way that, we're in the forest. We have to be careful. We have to be careful. Yeah, for many reasons. So, yeah.
So you're in the art world. You're in the academic world. You just recently got a PhD and stuff. You're also in this sort of indie outsider world, I think. I mean, but God bless you. Thank you for not being in just one world. Do you feel like you're in different worlds? Are they very different, or is there kind of continuity there?
I feel it's slowly coming together. It's slowly coming together. All these subcultures are slowly becoming recognized. I mean, back in, I don't even remember, the Spaz we had the second sound system at Burning Man. And then we helped to make this, a friend, Turbo Teddy, helped make a techno ghetto, so that brought in more sound systems, and now it's a lot of things. So I feel like kind of have to keep our sights and don't get comfortable on about what's happening. I mean, things are fun. Things are, I guess there's a core of us who are trying to push things a little bit further than what's comfortable, but in keeping our interests alive. And maybe that's why I went into academia for a few years, just to kind of brush up on, what am I really interested in? How can I help the world, or, not the world, but, my small community, kind of do it better and just think about things more and just integrate with things. I mean, my whole tip is sustainability and environment. So that's why I'm working with Compost and music. I mean, it's one thing to be a DJ and play other people's music, but I'm interested now, I guess it's connected. I'm interested in playing other things' music. I don't know. So, and also like the Autonomous Mutant Festival, just about trying to get people into the forest, getting all these beautiful people these beautiful artists and creators, who are in their little city bubbles, and getting them into the forest, especially when the festival, I mean, it's still happening, getting people into the forest so we don't lose our forest. I mean, the Forest Service is a forest management service, and, they're cutting down the forest. They don't preserve the forest. They're cutting it and managing it. So getting more people into the forest kind of helps helps everyone. It helps the trees. The trees like us to be in there. If we're using the forest, then they won't cut it down, you know, as a public resource. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. I guess I have an activist hat too, but I'm not a hardcore kind of black shirt activist. I'm more of a sustainability and we're all community kind of activist.
And, you know, there's a million more things we could talk about, but I think our timing is about right now. There's a bunch more stuff I would love to hear more about, and maybe another time. But I think we'll draw this to a close with thanks to Riley, who organized this meeting, with thanks to David Samus, my co-curator in the window gallery, with thanks to the Center for New Music, and with thanks to J. No.E. Parker, Dr. J. No.E. Parker. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bart, and thanks to the Center for New Music. I'm hoping to do more collaboration. It's a beautiful space. I love it, and I'm excited. I'm sorry that well, I'm not sorry, but I'm a little sad that my piece was sheltered in place, but I'm glad it got there and more people got to see it. Give people something to look at when they're walking past that corner.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Bart.